Welcome to this week's episode of Align and Allow. I think it's episode 9 this week, which is just crazy how time just flies right by when you're having fun. I think we're live now. Everything's working. We see the time going. This is good. This is important. Perfect. So let's make today's episode short and sweet. We have a really, really awesome topic that we're breaking down today, and that is the topic of breaking up with busyness and also toxic productivity. But we like the alliteration of breaking up with busyness. That just feels really good to my writer part of my soul. But basically what we're going to be talking about today is this whole concept of feeling like you need to be doing so much all the time, what this myth and this, concept of busyness actually means to us. Why do we get stuck in these loops? Why are all of us so freaking busy all the time? Why do we constantly have things stacked up on our to-do list and smashed into our calendar, and we're constantly feeling like we have to commit to all these different things? What the heck does busyness even mean? Because we all kind of know, yeah, I'm busy. This week is really busy. How many times have you heard that this week? Or today even so far? How many times have you heard someone say, yeah, I'm feeling really busy? And maybe it's framed as a positive thing where it's I'm getting so much done, I'm being so productive. So often we equate busyness with productivity, and we will 100% talk about that. But it might also be framed in a not so positive way where it's yeah, I'm really busy. But notice if there's an undertone of value that's attached to that, right? Is there an undertone of, yeah, I'm really busy and I'm really stressed out, but for some reason it makes this person seem more important? Or do you say it? Do you say, oh yeah, I'm so busy, but it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're important, or you're getting stuff done. And this is not a call out, okay? This is so, so normal. And I am sitting right there, right next to you, with you in this whole entire concept. And I'm saying it too. Yeah. We say we're busy, and it feels good. It feels good to feel like we are needed. It feels good to feel like we are showing up in a purpose. Maybe it doesn't feel like our purpose, but it feels good, right? And that's okay. So let's just get that out of the way first and foremost, okay? So if you're new around here, I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but we're only 2 minutes in, so we're okay. But if you're new around here, welcome. This is the weekly training series that I do here in the Ambitious Women Creating Intentional Lives Facebook community. The Align and Allow series is your weekly training. I like to call it your weekly morning show, because I think that this is something that's really fun that you can put on when you're getting ready in the morning, or while you're drinking your coffee and organizing your to-do list, or maybe you just sit down and listen to it too on your couch or on your balcony and just allow yourself to be here. There's that busyness. I'm how can we pack this into so many other things at the same time, right? But basically, this is your mini weekly morning show where we talk all things mindset shifts around doing less, and I give you practical coaching tips and aligned actions for actually stepping into creating your aligned way of working in your life. If you're new around here, once again, or if this is the first time you're tuning in, or if you've been here a million times, we talk about this all the time. Creating your aligned way of working is legitimately and literally, I was going to pair those two words together, your foundation for creating success in every single area of your life. I need to, this just came up, wasn't planning on saying this, but I need to say this now. I shared a post this week on Instagram about the fact that we are never taught in school how to work, right? There's just this expectation that you come to school and it's yeah, you know how to be productive, you know how to do your homework, you know how to get things done. And the truth is, no one ever sits down and talks to you about the different tools that you can use, or the different mindsets that go into how you're showing up for work. Did you have a class on how to be productive? Maybe you did. If you did, please tell me, and tell me where I can find it, because that is freaking amazing. Whatever teacher is teaching that, applauding them right now. But within that, and this is kind of the reason why we don't get taught this in school, is because the system that we live in perpetuates a certain kind of narrative around what it means to be productive, what it means to be successful. And so even if it did exist in school, we would need to be really intentional about how it exists, because a lot of the times it will just continue to perpetuate narratives of toxic productivity, of feeling like you need to do more, of feeling like you need to be more productive in order to feel worthy. There's so many things that are intertwined here. And the biggest one truly that I see again and again and again, and I've seen this in my own life, I see it with every single one of my clients, is that we really, really, truly do tie our worth to our work, because that's how we're taught to show up in this world, with work being 1/3 of the time that we spend in our lives. Of course, the way that we show up and work and the output that we create from that is going to determine how we feel about ourselves, right? Let me know if you're following me. If you've got questions throughout the way of this training, drop them in the comments. If you're watching the replay, comment #replay. I want to come and hang out with you here later. And I will 1000% be back to answer all the questions. I know some of you DM me after these trainings because you don't feel comfortable sharing in the group, and that is totally okay too. Feel free to message me as well, wherever you can find me, Instagram, Facebook, and I would love to chat with you there. So now that we are 5 minutes in, we're gonna make this short and fun and snappy, because that's how we like to do these things. And here are the 3 things that we're gonna be talking about today in episode 9 of Breaking Up with Busyness and Toxic Productivity. The first thing we're diving into is how busyness is a trigger for procrastination, perfectionism, and toxic productivity. So how all of those things get tied together, and what the actual core piece is, the core component that ties all of those aspects together. And when we address that one core component, you're going to be able to release all of those right away, like literally all at once. It's amazing. The second thing we're going to be talking about is why busyness is keeping you from your purpose, and how creating balance creates clarity and momentum towards your next level goal, okay? When we are busy, we're going to dive into this, we basically numb ourselves. And so how can we really connect to the purpose that we are here to create if we're not allowing ourselves to be conscious and present and tapping into what's happening in our lives and inside of us, okay? And then number 3, we're going to be talking about your aligned action for uncovering beliefs around busyness that you have and releasing the generational programming that is keeping us on this busy bee hustle hamster wheel, okay? We are all together in this society, and so we all have a different form or a form of this narrative. So you are in the right place. Stick with me. We're going to go through all of these things, and make sure you watch to the end so that you can get your aligned action and actually use these trainings, use this training in particular, to start to implement this in your own life, okay? So point number 1, how busyness is a trigger for procrastination, perfectionism, and toxic productivity. So let's talk about why we need to end this toxic relationship with busyness, okay? I want to start this off by saying happy Virgo season, my little cosmic beauties. So if you know anything about these trainings, I often like to tie in the zodiac seasons, because I think that they're really great guidelines for us to kind of tap into the themes that are happening energetically. Whether or not you really believe in that, that's up to you to decide. But it's a nice way for us to identify different themes that we can look at in our own lives. And Virgo season is all about this organized, next level action taker. I'm saying she now, but they are organized. You have attention to detail. You're putting the pieces into place, like you're getting things organized so that you can take action. You love this idea, and Virgo season in general is this idea of like really leaning into rituals and leaning into planning and leaning into having the right things in place so that you can move forward with momentum, okay? And another thing that Virgo season invites us to do is to connect to our feminine magic. So this is this idea that we are whole all on our own. You, my dear, are a whole and complete human being all on your own. And when we tap into the Virgo energy, and maybe this is something that you want to work on during this season, that's why I love kind of using these as guideposts for how can we deepen our relationship with ourselves or dive deeper into our personal growth journeys. But that's a place where you can say, how can I be more whole on my own, or where might I not feel like that in my life? And so the one way that we like to do that in Virgo season, and what the theme of Virgo season is really service. How can I show up and be of service and use that to tap into my purpose, use my purpose to show up in service, and to do it out of passion and not obligation? So this is where we come into the topic of today's episode, and why the shadow side of Virgo allows us to look deeper into things that we're going to be talking about today. So when you're really paying attention to detail, and when you are, taking action and wanting to make things happen, themes like, being overly critical of yourself or of things that didn't go right, or being a perfectionist, those things can all come up, or feeling like you're not doing enough, or feeling like you're not deserving of rest. So these are all themes that we talk about in here all the time. So Virgo season is a really great time to start doing this shadow work and seeing where these things and themes come up for you in your life, okay? So I want to just add in a little mantra here because I love using affirmations in my coaching, and I think that there would be a really beautiful way to tie into the themes. So I'm going to add this into the description later. But the mantra for this week for you in Virgo season is just because I do it all doesn't mean I have to. Just because I can do it all doesn't mean I have to. Rest is part of my magic. I don't need validation. I am whole all in myself. All on my own, I am whole. Rest is part of my magic, and I don't need validation, okay? But a lot of the time, those are the themes that come up when we talk about taking action and putting things into place and making the strategies and stepping into momentum in our businesses, in our work, in our careers, in our families, in the next level creation that you are on your way to make happen. And so that's really what I want you to start considering, where these themes come up, and then using this mantra to lean into starting to release them. And of course, if you want more support in doing so, you know where to find me. So let's talk about how busyness is tied to perfectionism. Perfectionism, again, talking about Virgo season, is this feeling of like attention to detail, things needing to be perfect. And most of the time it's tied to not feeling like you are enough. And so therefore you seek validation externally to feel like you are enough, right? And to feel like you're doing enough. And this, again, like I said at the beginning, it's not a call out. Most of us struggle with this, especially if you're a type A overachiever, recovering, whatever stage you are at, to just notice, like, where am I being really hard on myself right now? Where am I starting to overly criticize things or add the pressure to things that they need to be perfect, right? Then busyness is also tied to procrastination, right? And this is also tied to perfectionism, right? When you are needing things to be perfect, a lot of times with perfectionists, what I see is we start procrastinating, right? Because it's like, well, if it's not perfect, then it's not worth it. If it's not perfect, then it's not worth it. And we're like, I don't want to even start it because, like, what if it can't be perfect? Then I failed. And we start going in this loop, right? And so the second layer to procrastination is that procrastination is a really great way, and I say this ironically, to numb ourselves, right? And this is how busyness starts to tie back in. Procrastination can become a form of busyness. Like, you are adding tons of things to your calendar, to your schedule, because you want to stay busy so that you don't need to look at the thing that is actually, creating a little bit of discomfort or making you feel unsettled or making you start to doubt things, or, you have to go do that thing now. And you're like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to go, book in all these other things to do, right? So really what procrastination is numbing. And that's what busyness is. It's a form of avoidance. Like, if we're just being busy for the sake of being busy, right? And the thing, and this is what we talk about here all the time, is you don't need to do the most in order to create the results that you want. So you might be in a situation where you're like, well, I need to be busy all the time because I have so many things going on. And that's where I would say, let's take a really intentional look at what you are doing and get really clear on if you really need to be doing all those things. And maybe there's areas where there is a lot going on. And I mentioned this last week. Sometimes we do go through phases, and it's okay if things do get busier and we're just in that space of acknowledging this is a bit of a heavier season, but this too shall pass. This is not something that I'm normalizing as a new level of normal. Okay, can we agree on that? Cool. But to really come back to being clear on, am I being busy for the sake of being busy? And how can I start to slow down? Because when we start to slow down, we allow space to open up for our next level. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the thing that's like the core component. I mentioned before, like perfectionism, procrastination, toxic productivity, busyness. It all comes down to one thing. And this one little thing is shame, my friends. And when we talk about this thing that's perpetuating all these other actions like perfectionism and procrastination, they're just actions, okay? They're actions that are triggered by something internal, and that internal thing, that feeling, is shame. And what we really want to do is come back to the belief that is perpetuating that shame. And again, we talked about this at the beginning. I went on a little bit of a rant, but it's really coming down to, what are my beliefs around work? What are my beliefs around success? And what are my beliefs around my worth as it pertains to my worth and my rest, okay? Basically, what that means is, do I feel like I'm doing enough? If I'm not feeling like I'm doing enough, what's the narrative that I'm perpetuating there, right? So I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't feel like I'm doing enough, and so therefore I add more things to my schedule. I don't feel like I'm doing enough, so I add more things to my schedule. Then I feel overwhelmed, and so I start procrastinating on things. Then I fall behind even more. Then I make that mean something about myself, that I'm not good enough, and da 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 da. We fall into the cycle, right? Does that make sense? Let me know if that example resonates with you. Pretty generic. Most of us experience that one. But just to really understand that that is triggered by shame. That is triggered by our belief system that is so deeply embedded into our society, into us as individuals. It's things that we've seen from our parents and they've seen from their parents, and we've learned from our teachers, and we see other people in the corporate world or in their businesses do. And so we think in order to create success, we have to do the same thing. We are here to shift that narrative, my friends, right? We are here to change the way that we're showing up so that we can work with more ease and in more alignment, and that it gets to feel really good, and we don't need to do the most in order to create the results, right? So that is point number one. Let's move on to point number two. Why busyness is keeping you from your purpose, and how creating balance actually creates clarity and momentum towards your next level goal. So this really comes back to this whole concept of numbing ourselves, right? When we're busy, it allows us to not have to look at the hard questions. And sometimes the hard question is quite literally like, what is it that I'm here to do, right? That's a fucking big question. That is a freaking big, daunting question. So when we're asking that stuff, it can feel like, I don't want to look at that. Like, there's a lot of things there and a lot of limiting beliefs that come up around me not being good enough, or what if I never find my purpose? And again, we fall into that cycle. So getting busy then allows us to numb all those questions out and just continue on automatic, on autopilot, moving through life, right? What we really want to lean into is rest. It's okay to not always be working. And again, this is a point where shame comes up again, our dear little friend shame, where we feel like we're not allowed to rest. Because again, if we're talking about perfectionism, productivity, and procrastination, it all comes back to feeling shameful around not doing enough. And so we do more. And so of course we can't rest, right? And so what I really want to encourage here as a way to step into your purpose and create more balance is first and foremost to start releasing perfectionism. And the aligned action will really support you in doing that. But releasing perfectionism means leaning into your purpose. Not being addicted to being busy, but being in the place of wanting to dive deeper into what you were here to do. And maybe that's not clear right now, but taking one small step of action towards that, or leaning a little bit this way, leaning a little bit that way, kind of starting to feel it out, it takes you back to a place of centeredness, because you're starting to feel aligned and lit up by the things that you're testing out and trying out, and you're starting to become accustomed to what alignment feels like in your body, right? So when we are in this place of perfectionism and busyness, it takes you out of your center. And this is why working from a place of perfectionism and busyness and toxic productivity isn't actually helping you in creating your results, right? Because you're not in the energy that you want to be in. You're actually in the energy of feeling overwhelmed, pushing, forcing, not being in alignment with whether or not that's with what you're doing, or how you're doing it, or who you're doing it with. It is taking you out of your center. And your center is your place of alignment. Your center is your place of your energy source, where you can get in contact and in touch with that infinite source of energy. If that's confusing to you, watch last week's episode. We talked all about the concept of the fact that energy is infinite and how you can tap into that for yourself so that you always have enough energy. But basically, what we want to lean into here is your purpose, your passion, and starting to feel out what that looks like for you. And again, the way that we lean into releasing perfectionism is by leaning into your purpose, and really allowing for more ease and rest, right? This is the work that I do with my clients, and this is energy work. This is noticing how to manage your energy, having the tools for managing your energy, and really creating strategies and structures that enable you to do less. Because when you're doing less, you can obviously create more rest. And you're also tapped into the alignment of maybe you don't know what your purpose is right now, but you are creating space to be open to receiving that. Okay? Does that make sense? Let me know if that's resonating with you. Let's go on to point number 3. This is your aligned action step. Okay? So every single week I give you an aligned action step of a implementable coaching tool or tip, or aligned action, as I call them, that you can actually use right now, start to shift from what we talked about in this episode today, and see actual results and transformations in your life. Of course, you are the action taker. You need to be making this a priority and taking the time to commit, okay? So your aligned action today is for uncovering your beliefs and releasing the generational programming that keeps us in this busy bee hustle hamster wheel, okay? Like I said before, we don't just have these beliefs around work because we woke up one day and we're like, I think I should do more. I think that I should tie my worth to my work. No. This is intergenerational programming that our parents taught us and that our parents' taught them, and that we see around us. And whether we see it in movies or we see it from our bosses or we saw it from our teachers or we heard things, all of those pieces of our upbringing and even of our lives now condition us to stay in these particular cycles, okay? So what we really want to do with this aligned action is just simply start to uncover what your beliefs are, okay? And what I want you to do is grab a piece of paper. Honestly, it can be in a notebook, it doesn't really matter, but get a blank piece of paper where there's nothing on it, there's nothing on the other side of the paper, so that you really have this paper as like clean slate of energy simply for this exercise, okay? And just start writing down what comes up for you when you think about success. When you think about, what does success mean to me? How do I become successful? How do I feel about my abilities, or what are the abilities that I need to have in order to be successful? How do I feel about my work being tied to my worth? Like, is that true for me? Do I get validation from doing things well? Do I feel better when someone praises me for my work? What if I did something and no one ever knew about it? Would I feel the same way about it? Would I work as hard at it? Just start to ask yourself these questions. And again, like, where do I derive my worthiness from? Do I feel worthy right now? Do I feel best when I'm showing up well at work? What happens if I'm not showing up well at work? What happens if I fail at something? Like, these are all questions you can start asking yourself to uncover what the beliefs are that you have around how you are working, how you are resting. And again, the overarching one that I want you to think about is, am I busy? Am I a busy person? That's the whole topic of this week's episode, of episode 9 of Align and Allow. Am I a busy person? Start noticing how often you tell people how busy you are, or how often you use that as a response to how are you, okay? And no judgment. There's no need for you to be like, oh my God, I did it again. Like, why did I do it again? No, let it go. Just notice it. I did it again. Come at it with curiosity. Interesting that I said busy again. How did that feel in my body? Was I doing it because I wanted to prove that I was busy and that I'm doing so well? Or am I being like vulnerable with a friend right now and really saying like, I'm really drained, like I'm starting to feel burnt out, like something's gotta give, something's gotta shift, right? Just notice it. And once you have this whole paper filled out, again, maybe there's just a couple, maybe it's packed full, notice how these beliefs show up in your life. That's already a really, really big aligned action, so I don't want to give you anything else right now, but if you do that, please reach out to me and let me know that you did it, and we can definitely dive into your next aligned action step, or you can post in the comments below and we can definitely dive into it there. And what I just want to leave you with right now is the biggest light work that you can do. And light work, I say, because we talked about shadows of Virgo season before, so now it's talking about what's the opposite side of that. And that is really to practice self-compassion with yourself, okay? So you're writing out this list of beliefs, you're considering how busyness is showing up in your life. Be compassionate with yourself. Really practice this self-compassion in how you're speaking to yourself. And if you're getting overly critical, or if you're falling back into perfectionism or busyness, just notice it and send yourself some love. You are doing the absolute best right now, okay? You are doing everything right. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're listening to this video, to this training, the fact that you're still here at the end of it, girl, you have got it under control. You are good. You are so good. Everything is working out. You are getting it all right. Of course, if you want more support, I'm 1000% here to support you. And I actually want to share something very exciting that I haven't shared anywhere else, but just coming back to practicing that self-compassion, okay? So what I was going to share real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. This is the first place that I'm sharing this. I'm only officially announcing this tomorrow. For the month of September, I'm giving you the practical next step to what Virgo season is all about, which is taking aligned action, having that next step in your plan. That shadow energy of Virgo, again, is breaking up with busyness and perfectionism. So what I'm offering you here is a chance to actually set up your structure and strategy for doing less. And I'm doing this with 6 free do less strategy sessions. I'm only offering these for the next couple weeks for the month of September. They're gonna go super fast because the ones that I offered last time, the Feminine Flow Blueprint calls, went super quickly as well. They were all snatched up. So if you are feeling like, yeah, I wanna start leaning into doing less. Yes, I want to be breaking up with busyness and perfectionism and all these things that are like keeping me stuck in this loop where I just feel like shit, right? It doesn't feel good to be showing up to work like this. It doesn't feel good to feel behind. It doesn't feel good to feel like you're not doing enough. That does not need to be your reality. Make the choice that that no longer needs to be true for you, okay? So I'm gonna add the link to these do less calls in my bio. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. I get that a lot where people are like, I don't know, is this for me? Share it with me. Of course, more information will be coming out on it in the next couple of days. But I'm here to support you and make sure that your next step is most in alignment for you. And I would, of course, as always, love to see you in the comments back here or to see you on one of the do less strategy calls. Okay, my loves, have a beautiful Thursday, beautiful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.